Okay, so we shall begin. I'll welcome each of the panelists. On my left, I have Eliev Priel, Vice President Business Development at Neurink Innovations. Correct? Yep. Then centre left, we have Joshua Sciccheri, who's co-founder of a startup fashion brand called Love Hero, based in North London. Then we have Paolo Crespi, Sales and Marketing Director at Epson Como Printing Technologies, and a late entrant, but nevertheless, it's great to have you here, Gianluca Brenner, who is the owner of Stamperia di Lipomo. Forgive my pronunciation, hopefully I was near enough. Perfect. And also a representative of Sistema Moda Italia. So it's great to have you all here. Paolo, starting with you, it's quite a broad question, but why is sustainability so important to the broader textile industry? Not necessarily just printing, but...
We heard this morning many things about the textile industry, so sensitive for energy and for wastewater that we must do something. We have to revolute the industry and try to save energy, save water, save chemicals. Let me say that we already did something, because the story of digital printing does not start today. The story started at least 20 years ago. And especially in this area, particular area that is the Como district, we made a very good job. We made a good job. It means that we invest in the technology we had from Epson at that time. We convince the customers that are printing and dyeing houses to change. At that time, it was very difficult to understand because we were at the beginning. So we have to convince really to change completely from analog printing to the digital one. It was not easy, but thanks to a district, textile district, we succeeded. Stamperia di Lipomo is a friend of ours, of course, but the problem was that we had the opportunity to let the industry understand that the changement, the one that this morning we heard from Cornit, from the other people, was already there. And so we started to revolute, and starting from the top means from the high fashion. The high fashion, high brand may understand at the beginning that if we could be speeder, quicker in the new collection, quicker to renew all the design, and even we have no limits in coloring, in design, we could be different from the rest of the world. It could be better in terms of sustainability. Digital print, as explained this morning, has many advantages. It's not just a way to be quicker, but it's just a way to consume less. That is the theme of today, I think. Forget the advantages that are so many and everybody knows already, but we have to focus on the sustainability. We are more sustainable than in the past. We have many things to do. We have the roadmap we heard from Eurotex this morning is it's very difficult to achieve, but we wanted to achieve. So we have to do many things more.
Of course, and Joshua, as from a fashion brand perspective, what are your thoughts on trying to sort of involve the whole supply chain in becoming greener and more sustainable? What can brands and retailers do to sort of help the cause and work in collaboration with OEMs?
Yeah, I think it's all about collaboration and pushing the message of we need to be more greener, but also pushing the message that we need to reduce the risk for a brand, because when we produce, we're risking what we're trying to sell 6 months down the track. So I think digital printing really helps in being more sustainable in terms of the amount of impact and of raw materials that we use to actually create the products. It allows us to be more innovative, react quick, as you said. So it opens up a lot of opportunities, but also there's so many layers to sustainability. You know, there's not one fix. It means as an industry, we're all together, we have to come together and really put our heads together to produce products that are meaningful, you know, that are going to give value to the customer, not just consume. And I think that's where the key of sustainability is important. And that's where the supply chain can benefit from that, because, you know, if you're producing what people are desiring, but not just producing stuff, then I think we're all going to have a better future.
Eliav, have you got anything to add to that?
Well, definitely. Contributing by nature to sustainability, as you mentioned. I think one of the questions that we discussed previously was, is the industry doing enough? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to start, and I apologize in advance, with a cynical remark, which we're not. Sorry. Yes, it's not working. I don't think that the industry is doing enough, and we need to take a close example of ourselves here this morning. We're heating the outside with gas, when gas today is a resource that in Europe is an issue. And I work for an ink manufacturing company. On a weekly basis, we are getting notifications from European manufacturers of raw materials that prices are going up. That goes against sustainability. And one of the excuses, one of the reasons is the gas crisis. And then here we are, all of us, in the morning, heating up the outdoors with gas. So we're not doing enough. Definitely digital printing is contributing to sustainability from A to Z, from 0 to 100, but it's not yet adopted enough by the textile industry in general.
And Gianluca, how is the energy crisis impacting your business, and what are you doing to try and mitigate some of the challenges you face currently?
Yeah. Can you hear me? No? So I use this one. So first of all, I ran with my brothers a printing company in this area. So in the Como area, in the Silk District. I would like to add something to the first question that you were asking about sustainability, why sustainability is so important for the industry. It's a matter of responsibility. It's a matter of responsibility of the industry towards the stakeholder, towards the community we are living with the environmental we are living in. So it's a matter of responsibility, first of all. It's not only a matter of being ecological or being, you know, not using something instead of something else. It's a matter of a whole behavior of a company. And as far as energy crisis, you know, here in Italy, we have 40% of the import of gas that came, I mean, used to come from Russia. And our government was much involved in reducing this, you know, this quantity that comes from Russia. And it was done without looking at the price of gas. So in my company, we pay nowadays 10 times more than last year, exactly 10 times, which is not sustainable. Not sustainable at all. I mean, we can survive a few months. We can survive, you know, 1 year, but it's not foreseeable in the future that we are able to pay such high prices. So we need the help of institutions. We need the help of the state. We need the help of the EU. We have to be united. It's a problem that Italy cannot solve alone. My company, less than that. I mean, we can just see what is happening. We have to work together. It's a great opportunity.
And perhaps we, in general, all industries, not just the textile industry, but perhaps we need to pursue renewable energy as well, a lot more. So if we can move on to innovations, because I know Eliev, yourself and Paolo will probably want to talk about this, but in what way, so is the digital textile printing market doing enough in terms of R&D to enable the rest of the industry to become more sustainable? So that's the print service providers and the brands and retailers.
Well, I'll speak from the consumables side of the business, and Paolo will speak more from the hardware, I imagine. But and also it's continuing what Sharon mentioned this morning in her presentation about what Kornit is doing, and that's combining both from the consumables and hardware, is that digital printing, if I have to dream and look at how it will produce textile printing in 3 to 5 years, it will not include pre-treatment nor post-treatment of any kind. Now, not every fabric today is possible, but I imagine that with developments in the developments which are happening today, this will become feasible very soon. So everything will be digital. So the analog part of pre-treating and the analog part of steaming and washing, which is consuming gas or electricity and time and space, will be obsolete very, very soon. Absolutely.
Doesn't work. The first step was to print digitally. And of course, we need, till now, fabric well prepared. We needed to put the chemicals we need for fixation, and then we have to wash. Of course, research and development doesn't stop, but we have to proceed step by step. It's not a dream what we saw this morning, because it's a concentration of innovation and research presented this morning. But we have to proceed step by step, because our companies means the end user for us, our printing companies, needed to invest, and investment has a cost. The cost has to return. We wish in few years, but we have to do it like this. So we are studying and we are proceeding in innovating also the pre and post treatment. Today, as explained by Kornit on T-shirt, but this is feasible also for roll-to-roll market. We are printing a lot by pigment ink. We are working on the pre-treatment in order to get the shortest as possible process. And if you have the short process, you can consume less. In case of pigment ink, we can say even zero water, no, because we don't use water at all, but we need the energy. So I agree with you. Probably in future, also the pre and post treatment will be done by digitally and not by analog. But I would like to not remind you that we are thinking about a roll-to-roll industry that needs volume. So even today, a big machine like a Stanton machine is precious to produce a high volume with a very limited amount of energy and water, divided per the volume they produce, of course. So the vision for sure is this one, the one that Eurotex gave us this morning, and all the other projects, including the plasma and so on. But we as producer, hardware producer, and chemicals, let me say, because Epson produce also the chemicals, we wanted to go further step by step, taking care of our customers, the one that has to produce and has to produce 1,000 meters a day, even 100,000 meters. Customers in Como area, but not only in Como area, because we have customers all over the world. produce roll to roll. They produce with 5, 10, 20 machines together and million meters. So we have to take care about volume as well. Even because the cost and the cost of the environment impact, you have to reduce it, divided per the number of meters you print. If not, remain something intangible. We must be concrete, let me say like this.
Thank you, Paolo. And if it's okay, and I think I'll bring Eliev in on this, it's to do with pigments and the growth of pigments in the roll-to-roll segment recently. Now, obviously, fashion as an application is very important for the digital textile printing market. What is being done to improve the use of pigments in fashion applications when it comes to roll-to-roll printing?
Improvement in pigment inks. It's the density, intensity, color intensity, and depth. Special colors, adding green, blue, orange, red, purple to pigment inks. More or less, that's it. That will enable more and more applications in the fashion industry to be produced digitally.
And I think we discussed a couple of weeks ago about jettable pre-treatments as well, and now that could be an innovation which helps to support the trend of pigments in fashion. Is that correct? Or
yeah, well, that's part of the vision that you mentioned, or the dream, or that I mentioned for a few years from now, is that the pre-treatment process, which is totally analog today, will be, and it wastes a lot of chemicals, will be done digitally by the printer itself. It is done today by Kornit, for example, as a pioneer in this market. And I believe that others will follow very, very soon. The sustainability simply demands that pre-treatment will be done digitally, jettable, so it's selective. You use only the amount of pre-treatment that you need for the next job. And it's, if you talk about sustainability, this is sustainability.
and if we talk a little bit with, well, if we just go back to the energy crisis then as well, and we compare the pigment printing process, which we know and are all familiar with the sustainable advantages of pigment printing. If you compare it to reactive, surely that's helping to fuel growth in pigment printing currently because of the extra costs of reactive printing.
I think that Paolo will better answer, because I know and I do pigment inks only, so I'm
Good.
First of all, we have to say that the pigment ink process is not a new process, because since I came into the textile world 35 or 40 years ago, pigment ink by rotary was so popular. What we did is to print by digital the pigment ink in enhancing the best intensity and the best brilliancy we can, so that we can compare with reactive. Please understand, compare does not mean that it's the same. Today, with the right pretreatment, that is not mandatory. Pretreatment is not mandatory. We use pretreatment just to improve the color deepness and the color intensity, the color brilliancy. But for many market segments, we don't need it, because until the color shade we have to print is medium or pale, the difference is nothing. So it's not mandatory. If a customer say, I want not to use the pretreatment, for sure, why not? But because we wanted to compare pigment ink with the reactive, and we can, today we can, really can, we found the possibility by a pretreatment that is done very quickly and very cheap. Let me say the process is very cheap. You can achieve very brilliant colors, including, let me say, deeper black, but please understand what I mean, because it's a carbon black, very similar to the reactive. today we can print and enlarge the market segment pigment to many different ones, starting from the home textile, up to curtains, up to shoes, bags, fashion, of course. So step by step, day by day, the request, the demand from the market is to approve, let me say approve the pigment print enough for their market segment. And so we can become even greener, because at the end we consume less chemical, less water, and even less energy, because the process is shorter. So why not? We are open for sure. When you say do the pre and post in line, of course, we can do, we would like to do, we will do, but please consider the energy and so the sustainability in terms of volume, divided per volume, because if not, no meaning. If I consume 1 ton CO2, how many meters I did? This is for the industry, the sustainability. Then I agree with you to spread all over the world these words that are, we need to do our best to be greener, for sure. But calculate it. We needed to calculate how green we are, if not marketing. We have to do marketing for sure. Cornet did it this morning, but I agree. No, I agree with them. But in terms of industry, and then now I would like Gianluca talk about it.
Of course.
We need the cost. If not, then it's nothing, sorry to say.
Gianluca, would you like to come in?
No, I would like to add something, you know. First of all, as an industry, we are arriving from 10, 15 years of low-cost energy. And so it is shocking today to compare what we are producing at the price we are producing compared with what we paid in the past. So if energy doesn't cost, you don't care about it. You waste energy. But first of all, as an industry, we have to optimize our process. And secondly, this is not enough. I don't know if, I mean, the road is the one that you have imagined, but I wouldn't forget to ask a new chemistry, I mean, reactive. How about if a reactive color does fix in 2 minutes instead of 10 minutes? Isn't that, you know, more sustainable? Yes. So in the end, are we sure that that's the only road, or can we be open more to different roads? Of course, research is important, and research in chemistry is the most important, because from there comes cycles of works and cycles in production.
And for this reason that we put together the chemicals and the hardware. Only one could be not enough.
Can I just add to that, Joe? I think that's a key point also as a designer, having that information on hand, because I print with pigment dyes and I do also reactive for the point of fabric, how it feels, you know, sustainability, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's important that we do have those figures as a designer going, okay, well, if I produce this in reactive and it's only doing 2 minutes to be fixed, then maybe my decision-making will go towards reactive. But I think in sustainability, as I said before, it's multi-layered. So as long as we are trying to reduce the energy we're using, we're all doing our part. And that's the key point that we have to look at, because there's no way there's going to be one magic wand that's going to fix everything.
I'm intrigued as a fashion designer. Then have you noticed that there's more of a demand from the end consumer for sustainable products? Are they calling for more transparency? Is sustainability important to them? And crucially, is cost still a determining factor?
There's this whole theory of that sustainable products cost a lot more. They don't. It comes down to the brand understanding the supply chain where they can get the best price for the fabrics and deliver to the market. Is there a demand for consumers wanting more sustainable? Are they more conscious about it? Yes, they are, because it's more in the limelight now. People are talking about it more. But we need a bigger push. And the bigger push, and getting back to your story about the R&D and all that, is these big brands who are at the top level, your H&Ms and all that, they need to start investing in the R&D, in the products that you're designing, producing, because the companies just can't come up to the supplier and go, oh, you need to be more greener. You need to finance that. So these big brands are getting the call to action that they're greener because they've got the volume for buying. But I don't think it's that. I think we need more independent brands to really own the market share, to then produce more sustainably.
And if we put a time frame on this, turning, it's not a quick and easy job, is it, to change what a large brand or retailer is doing at the minute? So how, if we have a time frame on this, how soon realistically can we see substantial change made by brands and retailers?
I mean, I think the small independent brands are making change now. The larger ones, they're a big ship. For them to move and change and be more fluid in their business, it's quite impossible. So that's where I think legislation needs to come in and look at the big brands who are really producing lots of product and not penalizing them, but making it a bit more harder for them to actually produce a lot more products, and kind of reward the younger brands who are trying to do things properly by really opening their mind up to how we can produce more sustainably, have a systematic change. And I think that's key.
Anybody else got anything to add on the brands and retailers question?
I wanted to answer your question about, is that the only solution or the road? I can say from the point of ink development, as of today, pigment ink is the most sustainable solution for digital printing. There are other researches, but we're talking about 10, 15 years away. And another thing, I think you mentioned before that when energy was, you mentioned cheap, it was easy to waste energy. And I think that the crisis right now is an excellent wake-up call for the industry, and not to forget that it was easy to waste energy. And it will be a must for you to, for an example, use chemistry that will enable lower temperature curing. For an example, not only time, but also lower temperatures. So you might be consuming more time, but less energy in total because you will need lower temperatures. So yes, there is a lot of research going around in this field, and it seems that pigment, at least for now, is the most sustainable solution.
Gianluca?
Well, it's not, I agree, I certainly agree, but what I wanted to say is let's be open. Let's be open to every solution. Sustainability can be reached easily with pigments, but we can improve the way we are producing in such a way that we can be more sustainable in the future. Running a company nowadays, you are focused on energy costs. And the focus today is that one. The driver is, let's save energy. But saving energy goes, crash into what we have in the companies that are habits, that are cycles. And you cannot change cycles easily. It's like the habits you have in your home when you wash your teeth. I mean, if you don't close the tap, the water is wasted. But since we call them habits, it means that are not easy to change. So you change either through a disruptive technology or changing The cycles means a change in culture. And when you talk about culture, it takes time. Means that you have to teach the people that work with you, that they have to change something. And it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
It's unlearning to relearn, I guess. That's what sustainability is trying to unlearn to relearn. But also I think the crisis, the pandemic has kind of slowed down the supply chain to really think about how we can do things differently. So as you said before, crisis, we're all trying to save energy. The world has been trying to do that for centuries, But I think, when we have a crisis, humanity comes together and goes, okay, hang on guys, let's try and figure this out a better way. And it may be a blessing in disguise. I hope it is. But I think, we just need to slow down a bit. And I think that's the problem too, because we have habits, but we just keep doing them quickly and quickly. When we slow down, we can think about things, process them. And that comes back to the industry too, on how fast paced it is, how many collections we're doing per season, how much we're consuming, how much social media is really dictating, consumers' habits. So it's all interconnected and it's very hard to, just pinpoint, but, everyone's trying to do their part, which is great.
And our print service providers, so Gianluca, maybe point this one to you, but are they looking to see past the cost of the initial investment then? Because there's always the cost was a barrier to adoption of some sustainable technologies. Is that still the case, or is that a thing of the past?
I answer in this way. It's not only a matter of the willing of a company, of a producer to adopt or not a sustainable, let's say, technology. It has to be done together. I mean, it's not only a thing that matters to me. It matters to the consumer. So if we are able to teach the consumer that a sustainable technology helps my company, our company, the industry to survive in the future, that's, automatic that we adopt it, but must be done together. So what is teaching us the pandemic and now the energy crisis is that we are all together and we can solve the problems together, not as a single parts.
So collaboration is key. Paolo?
It's the same story also for the digital printing today. If a textile district like Como is so ahead, nice, because he adopted for the almost 80% of total volume the digital print, but in other countries, they don't care so much because the cost of energy or cost of wastewater is different, or because of culture, or because they take care about volume. We are a peanuts. We don't do nothing for our environment. So I think that today's discussion, because it's really a discussion at this point, is to spread all over the world, not only here in Europe. Europe is already ahead on this vision. Eurotex this morning gave us some challenges. Probably Europe can achieve, maybe not all of them, but for sure most of them. But I had the opportunity to travel all over the world because of my job, and I don't see exactly the same situation in India or in Bangladesh or in other countries. So again, please talk to everybody in the world and let them do something, even just to short or to clean the wastewater, or to save a few degrees in our process could be enough to start. Then pigment ink will come and the new chemistry will come for sure, and not so far, because I expected that in June 2023, next year here in Milano, we will see many of our, not competitor, our friends that will show new solution, including new possibility. I mean, to print by digital, even some what we call special effect. Because today the design are flat by digital. By rotary, we can do even something more. And I'm sure that we will achieve this kind of target. So we enlarge the printing market segment to many different end use, as well as, and again, very important, everybody in the world. We are too small today.
Thank you, Paolo. We are a little bit short for time now, so I don't know if have you got a final comment to make, Josh, on any of what we've discussed? No. Elliot?
I don't think we need to educate the consumer. The consumer of today and tomorrow will educate us. Excuse me for not agreeing with you. The consumer today buys from Instagram. They don't, and they check for GOTS or other fair employment and no child labor. That's my daughter, for an example. They educate us, and if we, as an industry, starting from chemistry to machinery to print service providers, don't wake up today, we'll be too late. That's my opinion. The customers, the consumer will educate us.
Yeah, but your daughter has been taught by you. It's the same as my daughter. You know, they're the next generation coming through, but I still think there's a big section of consumers out there who do not care. They want to look cool. They want to wear it once, go to the clubs, and the next week buy again. And that's the key issues we need to address. But you're right, you know, the new consumer coming through, they're going to be the future. So yeah, we all have to adapt our supply chain and manufacturing to that, for sure.
And who's responsible for changing that mindset? Where does the responsibility lie?
Parents and together, like, you know, learning, unlearning to relearn, you know, I think that's key. You know, the amount of, I do talks at schools, you know, at 6-year-olds, the amount of the stuff they know about recycling, sustainability is incredible. I never learned that at school. When I went to fashion college, I didn't learn about sustainability. So that generation is coming through and they're going to change the world. But we need to be there now to support it, to give them the tools, I guess, you know, to keep going forward.
Thank you. Well, I'm pretty sure we may have run out of time now, but I'm keen to see if anyone from the audience has got any questions, either live or virtually.
Thank you, Chinky. So the question from the virtual participant is kind of based on what you were just going into then about education and customers. Because what happens if they're not willing to take on inflated costs, and will this drive out smaller market players?
Yeah, so customers need to be willing to pay for, you know, for inflation, of course, but also it's the responsibility of the brand to go, okay, well, can I absorb some of that also, you know, so there's an equal playing level, because it is hard, you know, everything goes up, you got to put your prices up, but, you know, by how much you have to put your prices up, that's the key.
Any other questions? No? Okay, well, I'm
thank you. A very interesting discussion, but there's one topic that hasn't really been touched on much, and that's localization of production and how that can contribute towards sustainability. And I'd like to hear some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I can start because I mean, I do that at the moment. With Love Hero, we structure our collections into 3 categories: 50% bulk production, 25% on demand, the others bespoke. And the future is micro factories around the world, so we can reduce our carbon footprint to our customers, something we're working with Cornet on. It's in beta stage at the moment, our on-demand model, but localization, onshoring is is, through the pandemic, a lot of people realized that producing onshore is a lot more efficient, a lot more easier, and financially better. So I think we're going to see a return. The great thing about Italy is you've always kept your manufacturing powerhouse in Italy. In England, we lost that, so it's quite hard. It is quite frustrating. That's why manufacturing in Italy is so great.
I'm going to say I've heard, contrary to a lot of predictions, that the digital textile printing market is quite active in the UK at the minute. Is that something you've seen? The digital textile printing market in the UK is actually quite active at the minute.
It is quite active, yeah. The on-demand model in terms of direct to garment printing, it is. But when you get to doing dresses or caftans, that's where it gets a bit harder, for the on-demand localization production, because they're just not geared up for it. And also, I think with the on-demand model of printing and manufacturing, that's where you got to collaborate with factories, because factories are geared up for production lines. They don't want to, waste time. They don't want to keep their production lines empty. So that's where collaboration between the printers and the manufacturing has to connect, because if not, it's just not going to work properly, because factories, they're geared up the old school way.
Does anyone else got any comments on localized manufacturing?
Digital printing, by definition, creates onshore manufacturing on demand, just what we need for tomorrow morning for the London shop. And the same factory will have, the same producer will have a print shop in Denver producing what's needed for tomorrow for the Denver shop. It's happening today already. Yeah.
Localization is very important, and we know, and by our project, we already did something similar. Today, if we place one Epson machine in Como, and we send the file to another producer in Korea with the same machine, we have the same set of inks. The file is well prepared. We can print the same, even over there. So localization is one of the probably key point for future, and it's not only a matter of localization, but it's a matter to let the market grow locally. So both together, we have the equipment to do it. We have the technology to do it. Why not? But again, textile industry is an industry. So today the industry needs volume. The world will change. Okay, if it will change and we don't need anymore an industry, but the local small producer on demand, customized, okay, we agree, but we have the technology. We have it. It's a matter to use where we need and when we need.
Thank you. I think Thomas has a question, is it?
Yeah, well, maybe it's more a statement. When I follow up that discussion, I think it is interesting to keep in mind that digital technology, and especially inkjet, is a disruptive technology. That means for me, and maybe we don't, everybody agrees on that, it means for me, as hard as it is disruptive, we cannot care about the existing industry. We have to look for new ones. They understand the opportunity. And this gives us a different perspective.
We needed to move there step by step because we don't want to close our companies, our industries. We will change. We drive the change. We are driving the change because the 20 years passed by from the first, or even more than 20, from the first industrial digital printer. I agree with you. We will move forward and we will follow the change, or better, we will drive the change. Yesterday, Gianluca installed the first small unit only by, if I remember, the first one was by acid or reactive, I don't remember. They have now plenty of different machines that can print polyester as well as cotton, wool, and so on. And he's driving again the change towards pigment, toward any possibilities. But we don't want to close and completely the industry. We wanted to print more, to print better.
I understand.
It's nicer to talk about the vision. I agree with you, but we have to drive this vision to something that let us survive, even something better.
Yeah, but if they don't will, you know, and the point is, never put new wine in old pipes. We know that expression comes from the Bible. Never put new wine in the old pipes. And that is, if you put new technology in old production channels and distribution channels, doesn't work. It is investing money for nothing. It will only get the power if you get the new channel active with much less money and a lot of enthusiasm and a vision to go.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. I think we are out of one more question. Okay, thank you.
Can I, it's not actually a question, it's more a observation. What we need to do in the textile industry, I think, is improve our image. Young people leaving college are interested in becoming designers. They're not interested in the finishing processes. So if you like, we're resolving the printing part and some of the other automation, but as was said earlier, Italy's still got a good industry. The UK, for example, hasn't. So we also need to improve our profile so people are interested in coming into the industry and doing the production we need in those micro factories.
Thank you. I think we do need to wrap up, but obviously sustainability is a subject that we all talk about, and there's lots to discuss. So I'm sure we can have the conversations at the coffee breaks and at lunch tomorrow as well throughout the remainder of the conference. But gents, thank you very much for joining me. It's been great to chat to you. Please, I think we can give them a round of applause.